Hi, my name is Brianna Lynn. I studied abroad in London in spring 2019, and I'm a Kappa ambassador, which means that I promote Kappa's programs here on the San Oswego campus. I am a broadcasting and mass communication major, and I am a senior.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you studied abroad and why did you decide to study abroad?
I think I studied abroad mainly just because um, in the UK they speak English still. As much as I would have loved to study abroad in like Italy or Spain, I did not trust that I would be able to navigate a city, let alone speak to locals in their native language. So I chose English because I knew I was already going to be out of my comfort zone, and I wanted to ease some of the pressure of that by choosing a program where I felt like I could still like ask for directions if I needed it. And also like the good thing about London, it's definitely different from the US, but there was still some little pieces of home. Like I'd see like a certain brand in the grocery store that I knew that we had at home. Like things like that was good.
Thank you. How long were you in London when you found out about COVID-19?
So I was there from January 7th to around March 14th. And I found out probably about the coronavirus the last week of February. That was our spring break. And me and my friends decided to study or to choose that spring break and travel in Italy. And then we realized that like the coronavirus was hitting Italy and all of the locals were talking about it. So then we started researching, and it was already in the northern regions of Italy, and it was swiftly coming to where we were. And so we had to leave Italy early. So we realized it was like a serious thing, and that it was only a matter of time before it came to the UK.
What was your reaction like and when you found out, and what were you doing?
We landed in Naples and we were there for like a night, and then we took a train to Rome, and Florence was more north than where we already were since Rome's more central. Um, so we like started like I think we didn't know what to do. We all started like fighting in the restaurant because we were like, should we stay? Should we go? Should we go to Switzerland early? Like we all knew that we were losing money no matter what. Like, should we book a flight back to London? And we all just kind of called our parents and we just started crying. We were like, what do we do? Like, do we stay in Italy? Do we enjoy this spring break trip, or do we cut it short and just go back to London? And that's what we ended up doing. We booked flights that day and we went back to London just because we were so worried about it. And it's a good thing that we did too, because I think it was only exactly 14 days from when we were in Italy that we were able to fly back to the US. So when I was flying back to the US, I was in the airport and they said, have you been to Italy in the past 14 days? And I had been there in the past 15. So I wouldn't have been able to fly back to the US if I had left any later.
How did you feel? What was that experience like?
I think I was pretty shocked that I was at home, so it didn't hit me for a long time, especially even when I was leaving London. I was still like, oh, this is just like a little trip. Like, that's what it felt like. My body was used to being in that airport, all of that. And then after the long flight and seeing my family, I was like, okay, like I'm visiting. That's what it felt like at first. And then I just realized, oh, like it was completely cut short. Now I'm taking classes online. Um, with my professors, and they're still in London and I'm not going back for a while. So
Can you talk a little bit about what was, your experience working with SUNY and the information that you received from SUNY or the governor's office? What was that experience like?
So Kappa decided that we were going to only pull the program if our home institution pulled us first. So they sent us a bunch of emails, like just saying, like, let us know, like, keep us updated with what your home university is doing. Um, but like we're not gonna put our foot down. We're not making that decision. We're leaving that to your home institution. And so I remember getting emails from both the governor and SUNY Oswego. Basically, SUNY Oswego was like echoing what the governor said in his email. In his emails, he said if the UK got to a level 3 CDC level, that we had to be sent home. So that's what I had in the back of my mind for the longest time. There was other schools that, like, of people that went on the trip with me, they were level 2, but we were level 3. And then ours changed to a level 2. But the UK was only at a level 1, so I was like, oh, we're fine. But then I ended up getting the email from the governor that said that he pulled all SUNY students studying abroad, all of their programs, like they must report home as soon as possible, so like within the next 3 to 5 days. And I ended up being the first, one of the first colleges that was pulled because of the governor. He called it early.
Now, officially now you hear from the governor's office, from SUNY, that you need to come home. What did you do next?
I think we were all expecting it at that point. Like we had stopped traveling, like after Italy, like we didn't travel the next weekend because we were like, what if we get stuck there? Like things like that we had to start worrying about. And also I was just worried that like the borders to the US were going to close and that I wouldn't be allowed back inside. So I was just like waiting for the email at this point. So when I got the email, it still was a shock, especially since I was in my flat and I was like, oh my gosh, the governor just pulled me. Like, I have to go home within the next 3 to 5 days. Like, I have to schedule my flight tonight. And all my friends were like, oh my God, that's crazy, because none of them like had to schedule their flight yet. None of them had gotten pulled yet. But within like the next 2 to 3 days after I got pulled, they were also booking their flights for the same weekend.
Mm-hmm. What was it like returning home? That flight home, the arrival back home to the US?
I think I was like at peace with leaving at the time. Obviously, I look back at it now and I wish I could have had longer, but I knew it had to happen. And I got once I got home, I landed in JFK. I was a little nervous about that because the New York City at this time was very um, like big on the pandemic. Lots of cases were in New York City. So it was like, I don't know. It kind of felt weird because it felt like it was almost like a dream that I studied abroad for for a full 2 months, because when I came home everything was the same and like everyone was the same, and it was kind of like, oh my God, like I have all these experiences and like none of my parents or my sisters, they didn't come with me. So it's almost like it's in your head. You're like, whoa.
You know, what did you end up doing? Did you end up going into quarantine? Did you see a doctor? Did you work with the Department of Health? What did you do?
I quarantined for like I think a week, and I had no symptoms of the coronavirus, but my family and I ultimately agreed that it would be good for me to get tested just to make sure. So I got tested, and then I had to wait like 2 weeks for those test results to come back. So ultimately I quarantined and couldn't go anywhere for like around 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what the transition was like with Kappa, SUNY Oswego, or what did you do for courses? Mm-hmm.
Kappa and SUNY Oswego have like a really good relationship. So I was lucky that like transferring credits and all of that was pretty easy for me. I didn't have to worry about which courses I was taking or anything, as long as they counted toward my major, because like Kappa and SUNY Oswego have this partnership that allows the transition to be seamless. So I'm still on track to graduate and everything.
So you ended up taking online courses, completing your semester all online. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are you doing now, and what is your belief about study abroad or education abroad?
Mm-hmm. I am a huge advocate for education abroad. I feel like I have changed so much as a person from before abroad and then after abroad. The way I think now is like crazy. Like my perspective of the world has completely changed. I used to have a very small view of like where I used to always go and the US and New York. And now I've been so many places that I realize I'm just a small part of the world, and what I'm going through on a day-to-day basis, I'm living a day that could be completely different from someone on the other side of the world. And like that was really important to me. Not that I was like self-centered, but like I feel like a lot of us live our lives thinking we're like the main character.
Mhm.
And then you just realize that like so many people are like they don't live the same as you, like how the US like culture and like how I was like raised in the middle class, and then you see people that are like struggling homeless on the streets in Italy. So like things like that, it helped me to realize that. And also like it really taught me to not be afraid of living outside of your comfort zone, how you have some of the best experiences when you live outside of your comfort zone, and that's the most opportunity that you'll have to grow when you're uncomfortable. So
So true. I know, and you mentioned earlier that you're a student ambassador with Kappa. Why did you decide to take on this opportunity to promote education abroad?
Kappa like changed my life because of the opportunities it gave me to make connections with people in London, to grow as a person, to meet some of my best friends that I got to live with, to get a very good education that would be able to be transferred easily to Senior Oswego. And it just like helped me to realize like who I want to be. And I just think that like the way that they organized their program was really beneficial because you were surrounded by people that were going through the same thing as you. Like we were all Americans studying abroad, and you did have opportunities to meet locals as well, but it was also like you all were figuring it out all together instead of being thrown into a university where all of the people there are British. So it was nice to make that transition with other people. And I, before I studied abroad, I'd never been on a plane. And then I got on the plane and I studied abroad with Kappa, and I had such good experience that now I want to be able to speak about my experience and share it with people and encourage them to do the same thing that I did. So that's why I chose to promote their activities on campus.
What would you say to a student um, about COVID-19 and how it has now become a global pandemic? What would you say to students about that?
I think that as much as it sucks, I don't think anyone was expecting that Corona was going to happen. And a lot of people hate it. Like, yeah, I don't blame you. But it also just kind of shows like it's united us in a way, because the entire world, like when I was in London, like it started in China and it came to the US and it came to the UK. It spread all across the world. So everyone is worrying about this, even like celebrities, which we know like they live highly privileged lives. So they had to quarantine just like us. So it was kind of cool to see that like there was one thing in the world that completely like, as much as it's a really sad thing and it should be taken seriously, it was one thing that we could all relate to each other on.
Mhm. Thank you. What is the biggest takeaway that you have from this entire experience?
I think the biggest takeaway is you really can never expect what's going to happen. One day could be completely normal, and the next day something like this could be thrown your way. So that definitely, it was almost like thrown in the midst of like one of the best times of my life, but it also just shows that like I'm not in control of everything. It reminds me that living outside of your comfort zone is like one of the best things you can do for your personal growth and mental health.